Hello and good morning, my safety-minded friends. Welcome to the ANSI ISEA Z358.1 Shower and Eye Wash Compliance Masterclass. We will be talking about the standard, what it involves, how to test for certain aspects, and ensure compliance inside of your facilities. Thank you very much for taking the time to join us for the webinar, for being here, and for dedicating your time to learning something new and hopefully grasping something from this webinar that will help you in your everyday efforts to send people home safely. So got to cover a couple things real quick. Questions are incredibly important. If you have them, please ask them. Uh, Aside from myself, we have many people that are incredibly knowledgeable on this subject, as well as many other subjects. I mean, Z358.1, safety, ADA for emergency equipment, and so on and so forth. If you have questions at any time during this, please use the questions section on the control panel. It's that little box up there with a question mark on it. Throw them in there. That will be monitored throughout the webinar, and then we'll collect those. And we will put together a document that will have all the questions, all the answers that will go out to you so that you have access to that after the webinar. Okay, so be looking forward to a follow-up email from us with that information. Now, this is being recorded. The webinar will be on demand and sent to you in a follow-up email within very quickly after the webinar. We give ourselves some leeway there, but you should look for a communication from us by end of day. Okay, the poll questions, those will be launched throughout the webinar. There's not like a crazy amount of poll questions we're going to throw at you or anything like that. We just like to interact with you and get some feedback from you on emergency equipment, what you do and see on a daily basis and things like that. There will be 5 of those that will launch during the webinar. And your participation is greatly appreciated. There will also be a follow-up survey, and we'll buy you a cup of coffee for participation in that survey, a $5 Starbucks gift card for participating. That lets us know that we did a good job. Maybe we didn't do a good job. Maybe you liked the sultry sounds of my voice. Maybe you didn't. Maybe the content was not what you were expecting. Whatever it happens to be, we want to hear your feedback. We want to get that back so that we can learn and we can better ourselves and improve this content and ensure that it is exactly what you're looking for. I will tell you, most people seem to be pleased, and there are a ton of you in here right now, which is just awesome. Now, really quickly, introductions. My name is Justin Dunn. I'm the Field Marketing Manager here at Haws. I work very closely with the emergency equipment arm of our company. We also have a drinking fountain and bottle filler arm of the company, which is what kickstarted the company. But from an emergency equipment standpoint, I am one of the foremost experts on the Z358.1 standard inside these walls. I've been doing this webinar for a very long time and various versions of it. I really hope you enjoy this content. I'm really happy to be here presenting it to you. With me is Samantha Boson. If you would please introduce yourself.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Samantha Boson. I'm the Product Content Coordinator here at Haws, and I'm really excited to be here and talk about some super fun topics today.
Excellent. And then also in the background is Alex McCombs. She is responsible for everything you're seeing. She's running the show in the background, ensuring that everything is going smoothly and that this is going off without a hitch. Allie, do you want to say hi real quick?
Hello, everyone. I'm Allie McCombs, and I will be running the back end today and the poll question. So looking forward to interacting with you all.
Perfect. All right, now let's get into our topics. We're covering the ANSI ISEA Z358.1-2014 R2020 standard. That's revision 2020 standard. We're covering the significant requirements of the standard, and then giving you a brief a little insight into how to test for those specific standards. We're going to cover best practices for emergency equipment. Samantha's going to jump in there. Resources for achieving compliance, right? I just learned all this information on Z358.1. I attended this great webinar. What do I do with this information? How do I capitalize on this? How do I go look at my equipment and ensure that it is in fact compliant? And we'll give you some of those resources so that you can take this and be proactive about it and do something positive with it. So we'll also end with a Q&A. There will be, of course, questions submitted. There were questions that were pre-submitted to the webinar as well, quite a few. So we'll have both of those ready at the end of the webinar. We'll close, we'll give you some information real quick, like contact information, things like that. And then this content will be just about the whole hour. But Sam and I are going to hang out and answer questions after the webinar is done. So we appreciate if you can hang out. We know you're very busy, but if you want those answers, they will be on the very end of the webinar. So look forward to that. Now, what is the Z358.1? What is the standard? What does it entail? Why do we need to know this? Is it required? Is it not required? I'm going to cover all of that. Now, everybody should know OSHA, okay, the Occupational Safety and Health Administration. They are the agency responsible, again, for regulating emergency shower and eye wash facilities. Their standard is 29 CFR 1910.151C. And this is it. This is all the information on the screen. That's the whole text. And it lets us know if there's a situation that involves injurious, corrosive materials, that we need suitable facilities for quick drenching. But it doesn't give us any of the instructions. It doesn't tell us, how do I do that? Where does it go? How does it function? How do I test it? All of those things are answered by Z358.1. Okay. Very frequently I get asked the question, why doesn't OSHA adopt the standard? Why don't they make it their own standard? And the truth behind that is that OSHA is very busy, incredibly so. And a high focus on all different kinds of standards. We've all done the work to ensure that this knowledge has been spread. People are most of the world uses ANSI's ISEA Z358.1. That's the main standard, other than the European standard EN 15154. And our hope is still that someday it will be included as a OSHA standard. But they do this with many different standards. They say, if you want to comply with this, you got to look at this. Now, what we're doing with adhering to Z358.1 and educating ourselves on it is reducing injuries and fatalities, lowering general workplace risk, lowering potential lost time and money for the employee and for the employer, right? There might be litigation. There's a lot. There's hospital bills. There's so much that's going to happen afterwards. The ugly part, right? This is insurance. Adherence to Z358.1 is insurance against everything that's going to come after the incident. Somebody gets exposed to a corrosive or nasty material, substance, a lot is going to happen. This is going to ensure the employee is going to go home the way that they showed up to work. Okay, it's going to ensure that as an employer, you have the proper functioning, working equipment for that employee, right? We have, even here at Haws, we have some areas where, combination showers, full body decontamination needs to be taken very seriously. And that's what this does. This lets us know what we do, what we need to do. Now, OSHA has stepped up enforcement, of course. On August 1st, 2016, OSHA fines increased for the first time since 1990. It wasn't that long ago, but that's still news to some people. OSHA fines increased by a gigantic margin, a scary margin. And then effective in 2018, they said officially for inflation, they'll be adjusting year over year, so there's never a big jump like that again, which was terrifying. This is just a quick infographic to let you know some examples and see some examples of what violations look like for eye washes and safety showers. letting you know why this is so important. You can see a wide array of different violations on here. Failure to provide suitable facilities, not providing equipment that can do a full 15-minute flush. Access was limited to the equipment. You'll notice that these violations aren't citing the exact verbiage within 29 CFR 1910.151C, which is the OSHA standard. They're citing things that are included in the Z358.1 standard. And that's incredibly important, and why it's so important. Now, the standard itself was written by the ISEA, it's the International Safety Equipment Association. ANSI just defines the emergency shower design, location, temperature requirements, proper functionality. ANSI is the vehicle to move the standard, to distribute it and house it. And then, of course, OSHA references the ANSI standard. Now, it was first published in 1981. It's had many revisions since. We're really looking forward to the next version. Haws sits on the board, and we work constantly to help improve the standard, to make changes as much as we can. Many manufacturers, many different organizations sit on that board, but right on page 2 or 3, you'll see Haws Corporation. So many revisions. Very soon you can expect a new revision and probably a new webinar from us. And those revisions usually have meaningful changes about the operation of the equipment, changes to help you understand what's required, and things of that nature. Now, to get into the significant requirements of the standard and how to test for those, we are going to start right after we launch poll question number 1.
Alrighty. First poll question. How often do you test equipment? Please do not answer if not applicable. Do you test weekly? Do you test monthly? Do you test yearly? Do you not test, or are you unsure? We're getting quite a few answers. Again, thank you everyone for your participation in these. It is greatly appreciated. We'll have numerous polls throughout the presentation, so we encourage everyone to participate. Awesome. Thank you, everyone. I'm going to go ahead and end this poll.
All right. Very encouraging to see how many people said weekly activation, because that's what is required. The testing itself is very simple. All that is required is that the equipment, of course, be visited. You need to activate and ensure water flow to the heads of the device. Okay. Now that device might be an eye wash all by itself. You need to activate that, ensure water to the heads of the device. If it's a combination unit, like you see in the photo, you have to activate that. Activate the shower, have to activate the eye wash, the eye face wash. Whatever heads, devices that have water flow, those need to be activated. The duration just has to be long enough to clear out the dead leg in the piping. So this testing is twofold. We're ensuring, yep, it's working. This is going to, help save somebody's life. 2, we're getting rid of any potential opportunities for growth, bacteria, and things of that nature in the supply line. That's why we're doing a weekly test. If at a monthly basis or longer, bacteria, growth, things of that nature can take root. Legionella, it's very possible. It exasperated by your environment too sometimes. So very important. We got to get that water moving, and ensure we're not getting nasty water out of these. Now, if you have a portable piece of equipment, self-contained, a tank, okay, all that is required is a visual inspection. Okay, say it's a wall-hung, gravity-fed portable. Just simply remove the lid, look in the device, ensure that it is full of water to the manufacturer's suggested level. There's usually a fill line on the device. And then that's it. Replace the cap, sign the test tag, and walk away. That's all that's required. On a pressurized vessel, give it a little wiggle, make sure there's actually water in there, and then check the PSI gauge. There should be a pressure gauge on the device and ensure that it is fully charged to the manufacturer's recommendations. Now, I know you're asking yourself, but Justin, what happens if I don't test? And that is a really good question with really bad results and answers. This is what's going to happen. I can't tell you how many pieces of emergency equipment I have turned on in my life. Uh, I didn't see that coming, and I'm amazed that I've dodged exciting new lung diseases up to this point. But this is what you're going to get. The chocolate wedding fountain and Gatorade and coffee, and I think that's concentrated evil up in the left-hand corner. That's what you're going to get coming out of these. It's going to be gross, and this is potentially being sprayed directly into the wounds of somebody that is trying to rinse their body off as effectively as possible. So we need to keep that water moving. Okay, this is incredibly important. Now, on an annual basis, we have to inspect the unit from head to toe. We have to ensure there's a sign. The flow pattern of the shower is correct. The height of the eye face wash flow pattern is correct. So on and so forth. That's where we're going to cover for the rest of the webinar. This is our checklist that you see here on the screen. Very handy, totally free on the website. We'll give you one. But on an annual basis, once a year, you have to test it head to toe. Okay. That will bring us to poll question number 2.
All right, for poll question number 2, who currently tests your emergency equipment? Company personnel, a third party, me, no one, not applicable. We've got some great participation. Thank you all again. All of this helps us help you. So thank you for doing this. Awesome. I'm going to give you all a few more seconds, and then I'm going to close out this poll. Thank you, everyone.
All right. Well, let's get into what you're going to need. Because a lot of you said company personnel, and they have to be doing it somehow. And if you're not doing it, well, this is what we use to do it. So our kit is the model 9011. You need something very similar to this or this. It's a nice little kit. You need a tape measure. You're going to take a lot of tape measurements throughout this process. You need an eye wash gauge. This is something that was designed and given to us via the Z358.1 standard. There's a whole page dedicated to it. It shows us exactly what the dimensions of this are, what the functionality of it is, and I'll show you exactly how to use it here. You need a 5-gallon bucket with the 2-gallon water line marked. I'll also explain how to use that. You need a shower sock and a pole because they call it a drench shower for a reason, and controlling that much water can be kind of scary and a little difficult at times, depending if it's a 20 GPM shower, is it a 30 GPM shower, is it a 40 GPM shower? All of those can be true. 20 is the minimum, but I'll show that off later and what the differences can look like. You need a thermometer. We got to check the temperature of the water. We don't want to freeze somebody. We also don't want to cook somebody, right? There is a temperature range that we need to focus on. And then, of course, a checklist. You need something that is really thorough, like what I showed you earlier, that will detail everything that is that you need to check on that annual basis. This kit is also, of course, useful on those weekly tests to ensure you're not making a mess, which is the primary deterrent for people not wanting to test emergency equipment, is because it makes a mess. And they don't want to do that. And unfortunately, we have to make a little bit of a mess, but something like a kit like this can really help to ensure that we're doing a good job not to. Now to get into the actual requirements, okay? Now the unit has to be accessible within 10 seconds or 55 feet. 55 feet is a nice measurable distance that's really easy to use. 10 seconds is based on how quickly you can get from hazard and that exposure to the emergency equipment before the damage to your body or to your eyes is going to be at the point where you're going to start losing eyesight and your capabilities pretty quickly. Okay, you want to get in that water as fast as possible. This is a maximum amount of time, 10 seconds, maximum distance, 55 feet. Okay, there's nothing that extends that, but shorten that as much as possible, right? The closer the better, okay? Unless that equipment's close enough where you're continuously being exposed to something. Make sure it's a safe distance. Now it has to be free of obstructions. This is so incredibly common, what you see on the right-hand side here. Like a little silly. I picked some of the silly ones for the webinar, but these are bad, okay? Ensure the area is entirely free of obstruction, okay? There's nothing that I have to navigate, that I have to move, that I have to touch and grab and get out of the way to use the equipment. That's bad, okay? There is a measurement that helps with that, if you want a solid distance or area that has to be clear of obstructions, I'll give you that measurement here soon. The equipment also has to be on the same level as the hazard. We can't have stairs, changes in level, containment berms, and things like that I need to hop over, step up on, that I could potentially trip on. I mean, I don't have the best use of my eyes potentially. I'm panicking. I'm in severe pain and I need to get to emergency equipment quickly. I can't be held to start navigating an obstacle course on my way there. Okay, so no changes in level. There is one exception to this. I'll talk about it later. The area has to be well lit and easily identifiable with highly visible signage. Look at those examples on the right. Okay, you've got a shower and eye wash, and then you have a shower and eye face wash on the far right. If you were out in the yard working, right, and you had to identify these from a distance and move to them quickly, there's a chance that these blend in with the environment that maybe you're not thinking. You're not going to be able to identify these quickly enough to run towards the equipment quickly. So signage is incredibly important, okay? And sometimes you're working in areas of the facility you're not familiar with, or you're just filling in, or you're new on the job, or whatever it happens to be. You need to be able to spot these quickly and move to them. So highly visible signage, well lit. Just check the lighting in the area, ensure that it's good to go. And it has to deliver flushing fluid for a full 15 minutes, okay? Now, if the equipment is like this, I mean, I'm not thrilled about how close that shower is to that box there on the left photo. But if it is like this, and it's in an area where you can just let the shower rip, or the eye wash or eye face wash, and let it run for like 15 minutes, dump the water, really clear out the piping, ensure that your system, your facilities are capable of providing a full 15 minutes of water to this. That's your annual test, you're good. You run it for a full 15 minutes. Now, if you're in a hospital corridor, if you're in a clean room, if you're in somewhere else where I can't just let 340 plus gallons of water dump anywhere, well then I highly suggest that you examine and fully investigate your facility's capabilities to provide that full 15 minutes. What's the tank size? What's the dead leg? What's the size of the piping? Like, go investigate. And if you have one shower connected to that system, then run it for a full 15 minutes if you're capable, but go investigate your facility's capabilities to run a full 15 minutes. Now, the outlets shall be protected from airborne contaminants. You have to have dust covers in place. This is super simple, okay? We don't want clogging and things of that nature. Those dust covers have to be self-removing, okay? You cannot have a dust cover that you can have to physically grab to remove from the heads of the device. That is, upon activation of the paddle, those should pop off all by themselves without any additional steps. If it is taking additional steps, that's a problem. Just activate the unit, ensure they're being removed automatically. Now, the equipment has to go from off to on in 1 second or less, and it has to remain on without the use of the operator's hands. This means a stay open valve, okay? And because you have things to deal with. You need to be removing clothing, holding your eyes open, dealing with this emergency. You don't want to have to hold the shower open, hold the eye wash open, remove your clothes, hold your eyes open, all of these things at the same time, right? I can rub my belly and pat my head, but that's a lot to ask. So ensure stay open valves are in place and it's activating quickly. Now, these are just some great examples here on the right of self closing valves and situations that don't lend to hands-free use. Okay, so watch out for self-closing valves, globe valves, spring-loaded valves, things of that nature. Those are what they look like. And then on the far right, this is a different hands-free issue. Okay, not only is, I want you to think about how tall that sink is, right? That's your typical like janitor closet, utility sink, right? It's probably hitting you right in the hips, height-wise, right? And then a towel dispenser that's, pretty high up, and then an eye wash that's nearly at the top of that towel dispenser. Not only is the eye wash facing the wall, and it has a self-closing valve, there's so much more that you're going to have to do here to use that. It needs to be mounted much lower, right? This is going to be way too tall for most people to use. Not only, and you're going to have to hold that valve open and grab it off the wall to utilize it. We want to be able to activate it, let go completely, and utilize the device. Okay, so watch out for the positioning and orientation of your equipment as well. Eye washes have to deliver 0.4 gallons per minute. Eye face washes, 3 gallons per minute. And drench showers, 20 gallons per minute. For my friends up north, 1.5 liters, 11.4 liters, and 75.7 liters, respectively. These are the bare minimum GPM rates for eye washes, eye face washes, and drench showers. Above that is fine, GPM-wise. However, we start to get to the point where the equipment is borderline injurious. And I'll explain what that means here. We want a controlled flow. Okay, if your equipment, your safety shower, eye wash, eye face wash is uncontrolled, if it is aggressive, highly aggressive, uncontrolled flow from the equipment, this is a serious compliance issue. I want you to put yourself in the shoes of somebody who's just been exposed to something highly corrosive, right? And I have to step into something that's acting like a waterfall, right? I want something that's gentle, it's fully covering my body, it's rinsing me without further injury. Okay, this is incredibly important. Now, just to show you some examples of what too much and too little look like. On the left, you have too much, right? This is injurious. This is a ceiling tile washer. This is not going to be ideal for rinsing your eyes and your face. This is going to hurt horribly, okay? We want something that is controlled, something that has flow control, something that is dialed back, that is going to be easy to use, not as much as the one on the right. That's not enough, right? This is the pick your favorite eye situation. And it's going to be really sad and unfortunate to have to run into something like this when you need to rinse your eyes out, being plural. This is a serious problem. So watch out for these. This is so much more common than I can even begin to explain. Here we go. This is the 9015. This is the eye wash gauge that's included in that 9011 test kit. It tells us, the standard told us exactly how to make this. It's based on the average anthropometrics of a human. Our eyes are spaced in pretty much the same way for all of us, same distance, ish, right? This gauge is ensuring that as those spray patterns hit the gauge, it's within those eye circles, meaning that it is going to be usable by a person utilizing it. I'll kind of show you what that means and how you use it. So what you want to do is measure 8 inches above the head of the device and then slowly lower the gauge anywhere between 0 to 8 inches. If that gauge aligns with the eye wash flow pattern, it's fully compliant. I'm going to show you what it looks like from above so that you can see exactly what that water looks like as it hits the gauge. So we have water flowing, we're measuring, we're lowering the gauge, and then we have those 2 dedicated eye streams. This is our Axion technology, if you're not familiar with it. So we have forehead sprays, cheek sprays, and then eye sprays. Those 2 in the middle are our primary concern, right? The other sprays are going to hit our face. That's great. But those 2 eye wash sprays, we want those right in the eye circles. That means it is usable. We're not actually measuring the amount of water coming out of the eye wash. This is how we're ensuring that it is meeting the requirements and the manufacturer did a good job, which in this video we did. So pat on the back, go Haws. Flow pattern, 33 to 53 inches. Okay, so the leftmost diagram there, you can see we're measuring from the floor line. Use your tape measure, measure up to the tippy top of the flow pattern of the water. We want the water coming out of the device, not the head of the device, okay? Measure to the top of the water flow pattern. This helps ensure that where that gauge aligns is going to be in an area where it's, on average, is going to be able to be used by all of us. Again, based on averages and anthropometrics, okay? You'll be able to lean over, utilize that very easily, rather than it being aligned much higher off the floor or too low off the floor, where you might be squatting or on your knees or something awkward trying to utilize the device. The heads of the device also have to be free of obstruction by 6 inches. Again, just take your tape measure, go to the head of the device, utilize that tape measure, and ensure in a all the way around the heads of the device is clear of obstruction by 6 inches. Okay, and that's anything and everything. We can't have anything there that might obstruct our ability to utilize that. But not only that too, but our body is going to be on top of this. We're going to be resting our arms. I have to sit here for 15 minutes. Okay, we want to ensure there's nothing in our way, nothing we have to fiddle with or mess with. Now, testing the shower and the eye wash. This is what we do. To check the flow rate for the shower head, we need our 5-gallon bucket with the 2-gallon water line marked, shower sock and pole, and the thermometer. First things first, throw the thermometer in the bottom of the bucket. If you're using that type, if you have a laser measuring device, that's totally fine. Just be cautious. If it's borderline, sometimes you're measuring the bucket the water's sitting in. Okay, and so on. So give it a second, let that temperature normalize the device that's holding it, and then take your measurement. Place the shower sock around the shower head and run it down into the bucket. Okay, and definitely ensure that second part, unless you want soggy loafers. Activate the eye wash or the eye face wash if one is present. If it's a combination unit, that unit is designed to work all together. Everything operating at the same time. It's never intended for the shower to operate without the eye wash or eye face wash. There just isn't really a situation where that should arise. If we're talking full body decontamination and the need, you would want the eye wash or eye face wash on. So ensure it's running, then activate the shower for 6 seconds. We're doing the same thing a nurse would do with like measuring your pulse. They're not going to count for 60 seconds and give you your heart rate. They're going to count for 10 seconds or less and do the math in their heads. Okay. So 6 seconds at 2 gallons is what we're measuring at the bucket. If it's over that, we know we have at 60 seconds and 20 gallons, so 6 seconds and 2 gallons times 10, we are meeting compliance. Okay, so we're taking a snapshot of that, doing the math, and ensuring compliance. So 6 seconds, as long as it's over that line, it is compliant. Now, the actual flow pattern of the shower. Okay, you can see a good compliance versus non-compliant version here. The one on the left is going to cover my whole body, shoulder to shoulder. It's 20 inches wide at 60 inches above the floor surface of the user. Okay, that's ensuring it is, again, it's going to fully cover my body. The one on the right is too narrow. This isn't focused on my whole body. And there's going to be a huge gap there around the flow pattern. I'm going to have to stand probably up, directly up, just to ensure that my body is getting fully covered. And if I'm utilizing that eye face wash, there's nothing hitting the back of my head, my neck, and so on and so forth. So ensure the flow pattern is correct. Just 20 inches, 60 inches across. Also ensure from the very center point of that shower flow pattern, it is free of obstruction by 16 inches in every direction. Okay, so we have to, that's that measurement I'm talking about. okay? 16 inches from any obstruction from the center of the column, meaning you have 32 inches of clear floor space that you need in front of this unit to ensure compliance, okay? So if you want to mark it off, it used to be required in the Z358.1 standard that you paint the area around it, which is why you still run into units that are like that, or safety people that think that's required. It's not, but it is a great practice. Paint the area, like mark it off, ensure nobody can, store all their junk over there. This is my buddy Bill. He's doing exactly what we just talked about, taking the tape measure up 60 inches across 20, just ensuring compliance for the shower flow pattern. Now the shower head itself has to be 82 to 96 inches high above the surface floor of the user. Any higher or lower than that, the flow pattern is going to be too narrow or it's going to be too wide and it's not going to flush us correctly. Okay, so take that tape measure to the outlet of the water, the nozzle, whatever that is where the water is coming out, not the rim of the shower head, right? If that's not affecting the flow pattern, don't measure to that. Measure to the outlet of the water. Has to be between that range. The places I find this frequently an issue are places like labs or hospitals where they're installed in the ceiling. Those have to be extended down below 96 inches. Otherwise, you're just spraying everything around the user and not the user that's having the first aid emergency. The pull rod. Take your tape measure and then measure from the ground up to the very bottom of the pull rod. As long as that measurement, that pull rod, is below 69 inches from the floor, then it is compliant. Same thing, anthropometrically, it is ensuring that most of us will be able to reach that pull rod and pull it down. There are different lengths of pull rods, of course, for ADA, ensuring reach ranges are being met, or ADA for wheelchair or extremes of physical size, ensuring that if we have employees where that's necessary, that we have the right length pull rods and things like that. Okay. Now, the combination unit, shower and eye wash or shower and eye face wash. We prefer shower and eye face wash. We've standardized to that. We don't think there's a situation where an eye wash is ever more appropriate than an eye face wash if one is possible, right? Why would I, on a combination unit, why would I want something that's just going to hit my eyes and then a shower rinse my body instead of a device that also rinses my forehead and face, my cheeks, my face, and my eyes, all of that at one point? I want full body decontamination. I want my best chances of avoiding things like skin grafts and so on and so forth. Okay, so those have to work together. Okay, they have to be aligned so that one person can use them and they have to be able to operate simultaneously. This is a big issue. On your weekly tests, on your annual tests, activate that shower with the eye wash or eye face wash on. The water typically takes the path of least resistance through the unit. That typically means the shower head is soaking up most of that water. And as it's spraying, it will starve the eye wash or the eye face wash. There's not enough water for them to run simultaneously, not enough pressure. So ensure both are on at the same time so that we know if there is starvation, then we can help with that, right? We could retrofit Haws Axion stuff, flow controls included. Ensure there are flow controls in your equipment, creating that back pressure to ensure the equipment is going to function normally and there's water left over for the eye wash or eye face wash. This is really important. Okay. Now, the shutoff valve. There's probably a shutoff valve, right? Sometimes there's maintenance needed on these and they have to throw the water off so that they can work on the equipment and so forth and so on. Those have to be locked open. If they are accessible to employees in any way, shape, or form, use a lotto device. Or sometimes many valves already have a locking device on it. Use a padlock or whatever. Lock it open so that maintenance has to go unlock it, turn the valve off, do the work, and then replace whatever that lock is. That's why I suggest a lotto device, because there's already a procedure in your mind saying, I have to put this thing back. But those have to be locked open. Employees who might be exposed to hazardous materials have to be instructed on where that equipment is and how to use it, right? So just educate your employees, quiz them. Here, I like to ask employees, where's your nearest eye wash? Where's your nearest safety shower? Tell me where it's at, and then describe to me how to use it. That just lets me know, like pop quiz time, you know what to do, where to go, and how it works. If you experience freezing conditions, it doesn't matter if you're in northern Canada or if you're in Texas, they both freeze. Okay, uh, almost annually we get gigantic orders of replacement valves for snap freezes in Texas, where you have burst valves and piping and all these issues because they weren't freeze protected. Okay, even if it's for a brief period of time during the year, ensure that your outdoor equipment specifically, or any equipment that may freeze during the year, is protected from doing so. This is so important, and I can't tell you how many photos I have of popsicles that out of a combination unit or whatever, or even that keg right there. The 7603T has that nice heat trace jacket on it. You just plug it into the wall. I have found those frozen solid on the inside because it was just sitting outside. Nobody thought to bring it in or heat trace it. This is important. You don't want to run into that during an emergency. Now, that temperature range I mentioned earlier, 60 to 100 degrees Fahrenheit, 16 degrees to 38 degrees Celsius, we have to ensure it's within that range. This is a pretty big range. It can be difficult to accomplish in some areas, but there's lots of supplementive equipment to help you do that. Mixing valves to mix the hot and cold water, instantaneous electric heaters specifically designed for emergency equipment. Don't try to use those homemade or those home use shower units. Okay, you need something that is going to be able to pump out 23 plus gallons per minute. Steam heaters, like you see there, the 9400, things like that, utilize that equipment to accomplish this. And make sure you're measuring during your shower test. Either if you're doing it weekly, do it weekly, that's fine. But on your annual test, make sure you are taking that temperature. And if it's not within compliance, we got to bring it there, and I'll explain why. If it's too cold, we risk hypothermia, cold shock, possible cardiac arrest, right? Anything less than 60 degrees Fahrenheit, there's a couple things that you need to consider. Wind chill factor, right? The weather. I don't have any clothing on. I'm exposed. Size is a huge concern, right? And things like that. So what this is going to do, if it's too cold, the user may not remove their clothing, and that's a big problem. If you have corrosives on you, or other substances seeping into your clothing and you're not taking them off, that clothing will protect and help that chemical or whatever endure longer on your body. It's not time to be shy. You got to be in your birthday suit. And this, if it's too cold, you may not remove your clothing, and that's bad. Or the user might just exit the equipment before the recommended time has passed. If it's too hot, hyperthermia. We're going to heat up too quickly. Possible heat stroke, confusion. You want to be in the best frame of mind possible coming out of this equipment because you have questions to answer. What were you exposed to? How long were you exposed to it? Where? Like, you want to be able to work with the first aid responders. It's going to be an awful situation. It's going to move fast. You're going to be panicking, but if there's no supervisor or manager or they don't know what it was that you got exposed to, whatever it happens to be, you should be able to answer questions. That's your best chance for survival. Hopefully a supervisor or manager is there helping you too. Scalding of the eyes and soft tissue starts at 100. Skin burns start at 120 degrees and up. Okay, it starts slowly, but I once tested a shower that had 137 degrees Fahrenheit water coming out of it. It was insane. Again, may force them to exit the equipment too soon, and then hot water above 100 may have negative reactions with chemicals. We preset everything to 85 degrees Fahrenheit. That's our kind of golden temperature. It's not reactive. It's just warm enough that you're going to stay in there, and it will help to encourage you to remove your clothing. Next, supplementive equipment. This, again, is maybe a little ridiculous because I have a collection of these based on all my surveys of facilities and doing these things, but they are frequently missing or expired, or there's some other problem with them, or they got refilled from like water. Yeah, I can see your emojis, your reactions on this side. They're either missing, gross, or just flat out expired. Okay. Um, it is really important that we keep track of these, we replace them. This is great. If you have these in your facility, this is excellent. This is a sign of a healthy safety environment. I supplemented my primary equipment with something you can use immediately. That's the point. I get exposed to something, I can grab this bottle, help clear my eyes out quickly on my way to that emergency equipment. Okay. Um, and starting on the left, I think you have the burn it out option. I think that's toilet bowl cleaner. Number 3 doesn't bother me so much. Maybe a different brand of wine, but I'm sure Biltmore's fine. Biltmore's fine. Frozen, that was on the back of a truck. The double big gulp is not the worst answer, honestly. It's be very quick. You'd have to refill them all the time. That'd be a problem. And then you have the old, spoon it out option when it's gone too far, maybe. But those are unfortunately real photos. Now, I told you earlier that there would be a consideration, an extra consideration for a change in level, and that's this. Okay, anytime you have something like you see here on the right, this is our 8605 SS, 8606 SS. As you can see, these are not designed to be flush with the ground. They can't be. They're designed to catch the water. Okay, it's designed so that you can be in there, close a curtain for some modesty, and as the equipment runs, it is collecting that water and sending it to a desired location for the facility. You are allowed one single step as long as it is into an enclosure like you see here. Okay. Next, doors. You can have a door. Doors are fine, but it has to meet certain criteria. Okay. It has to be non-locking, has to open in the direction of the emergency equipment so you can move through the door and not stop and pull. The hazard has to be non-corrosive. The second it is corrosive, no doors at all. Although I have seen people get away with flaps. Like if you have to have your room separated, those push open flaps seem to be something you can get away with, although still not recommended. And they have to be push bar or panic bar operated like you see here in the photo, all lending to us moving through the doors. That will bring us to poll question number 3.
All right, getting into our third poll question. What are your primary ANSI compliance issues? Please check all that apply. Please do not answer if not applicable. All right, so accessible locations, tepid water, injurious or uncontrolled flow, low flow, uneven flow, or eye wash and shower simultaneous flow issues. Again, thank you everyone for participating in our poll questions. We greatly appreciate it and are getting great response. So thank you, and back to you, Justin.
Looks like location and tepid water were winning there. Those are super, super, super common. Now, as we're moving on, we're going to get into best practices. As we are experts here, we have been doing and making emergency equipment and compliance since the 1950s. And my co-host is highly familiar with what many of those are, and she is going to explain in detail. Samantha, if you would.
Thanks, Justin. All right, so our first best practice is to remove contacts and make sure that you're not rubbing your eyes. Super important so that the chemicals aren't getting under your contacts. Next best practice is to disrobe completely. You got to be in your birthday suit. Make sure that those socks and shoes are off. Third one, provide a privacy curtain so we can preserve a little bit of modesty to the victims. Really important to not remove PPE before entering the equipment. It's there for a reason. Once you enter the piece of emergency equipment, then you can go ahead and remove that PPE. Be cautious while assisting to not contaminate yourself or others. So make sure that if you see a victim to help them, you can shout directions to the piece of emergency equipment. Ensure the correct type of signage is used. You would be really upset if you're looking for a combo unit and you go to the piece of equipment and it's only an eye wash. So super important that we get the signage correct. This one should go without saying, but here I am saying it, so clearly something went wrong somewhere. Be cautious of proximity to electrical components. And
Goes
good
wrong
rules.
so frequently is the insane part.
Yeah. Make sure that you locate other first aid equipment nearby. Make a safety area in your facility so everyone knows where to go in the case of emergency. Last but not least, clean your emergency equipment regularly so we're getting rid of any buildup on the unit. All right, and this is the Nard dog, Andy Bernard from The Office. In the video, he's actually screaming at the top of his lungs, but it's actually a really great technique that he's using. He's really in there getting his eyes spread open, so we're covering the whole surface area of the eye. And a little fun fact for you, that is a piece of Haws emergency equipment. Alrighty, ANSI Z358.1-2017. Color coding is super important, so everyone in your facility knows what each color means. We'll start off with the color red. This is danger or stop. This is frequently used for stop bars or buttons on machinery. Next we have yellow, and this is caution for any tripping, falling, and striking hazards. Orange will be warning, so parts of the machinery or equipment that may cut, crush, or otherwise injure. And safety green, which may or may not be the color of the manufacturer's webinar that you're attending right now. Safety green, location of safety equipment, super important, so everyone knows where to go. Blue is considered for policies, so not immediately safety related, and this applies to company policies. And then any other color is definable by the user as needed. All right, Haws surveys. I'm here to show you the reality about compliance rates and give you a few resources to help get you back into compliance if that's an issue that you're running into. Here at Haws, we run site surveys. We've been running these for a very long time now, and over those years, we have compiled all of that data to see the percentage of units that are actually meeting full compliance. And that's what you can see on the back of the chart. And that little note just says that 8 out of 10 attendees from this webinar believe that over half their equipment meets the ANSI standards, when in fact, 78% of emergency equipment is not compliant. And that's the huge red slice that you see sticking out. These are non-compliant performance-related issues. So that's when you see injurious or uneven flows, starvation of the unit, anything like that. 10% on the chart accounts for non-compliant other, and that's any issue not related to performance. That could be missing or incorrect signage, dust covers weren't on the unit, anything like that. Overall, we see 12% of units are actually fully compliant, so clearly a lot can go wrong when it comes to compliance, but no need to fear, that's exactly what our site surveys are for. And the best part about our site surveys is that they're completely free. You will get 1 full day of inspections completed by professionals who are trained in the ANSI standard. Haws itself has over 75 years in the emergency equipment game, so we know what we're doing. You can trust us. Keep in mind, restrictions do apply depending on how many units are at your facility, but we always ensure to complete as many units as possible. In the site survey program, you will also receive an inspection report that will include photos and evidence of the non-compliant areas that we may find, as well as an executive summary chart. Recommendations will be given in the report, so you will have solutions to the issues that we find. And a really great perk is that you'll be given access to a subject matter expert who will debrief you on those findings. This is all completely confidential. Your secrets are safe with us. And again, this is all for free. This is an incredible program to give you insight to meet full compliance. And if anything I just mentioned sparks your interest and you'd like to learn more, poll question number 4 is for you.
All right, getting into our 4th poll question, would you be interested in a free site survey of your existing emergency equipment for ANSI compliance? Yes, no, not applicable. If everyone can submit their answers, that would be great. Thank you again for participating in these poll questions. We love to see all this feedback. So thank you, and I'm going to go ahead and close this poll.
Thank you, Allie. All right, the next part that I'm going to cover is Haws services. I'm sure you guys are busy people and there's probably a lot going on in your facility for whatever reason. Maybe you're short-staffed, your to-do list is piling up, you have too many units to test yourself. Whatever it may be, this is when Haws Services comes into your life and fixes all of your issues. Just like how you outsource maintenance on AEDs, first aid kits, or fire extinguishers, I highly, highly recommend outsourcing for all your emergency equipment needs. Haws Services will send a fully qualified professional to you. They are trained to work on any piece of equipment from any manufacturer, so you don't just need Haws equipment. They are trained to work on Haws, Speakman, Guardian, you name it, they're trained on it. And keep in mind, they will also come out to any facility type. Haws Services will also provide a comprehensive site evaluation with training on how to test your equipment. The Haws Services techs are amazing, and they're not only going to give you evaluation and training, they're also going to fix all the issues that they find, which is probably the best part. The services that they offer are truly, truly next level. They can do weekly and annual testing for you, preventative maintenance and contracts, repairs and upgrades, startup commissioning on new equipment if you're looking into a more complicated unit like one of our tempering skids. As mentioned, they also offer online training and certification as well as warranty service. And if that sounds up your alley, you can visit us at hawsco.com, or you can say yes to the next poll question and we'll reach out to you for more info.
All right, the last poll question of today, would you be interested in learning more about Haws services and how they can help you achieve ANSI compliance? Yes, no, not applicable. Again, this is the last poll question of the masterclass today. Thank you all for your participation. We love to see it, and we just greatly appreciate you being involved throughout the entire hour. So thank you again, and I'm going to go ahead and close this final poll.
Obsessed with just watching emojis. Look at all those. I love it. All right, now we're going to get into the questions and answers. Samantha and I are going to dive in. She's going to pick my brain about what is on your brain. I think that makes sense. And so we're going to dive into that. But first, we understand we're at the end of the hour. This is usually how it goes. It's an hour of content. And then I'm going to hang out and I'm going to do questions and answers. So please hang out if you have the time and you want answers to those questions. For now, make sure you grab our contact information if you are going to vote. I've been Justin Dunn, Field Marketing Manager, justind@hawsco.com. Feel free to reach out to me or save that. I had a couple compliance questions asked of me today. Our Haws customer service is top notch. They're absolutely incredible. They work hard. They're fun to work with. They're highly knowledgeable, and they really, really, really know what they're talking about. They can be reached at customerservice@hawsco.com. If you don't like being on the phone, if you like being on the phone and getting a person there, 775-359-4712, or the toll-free number is there, that 888. Throw that at your phone and you will get one of us on the phone. Or the other option, hawsco.com. I cannot say enough about our website. Our website is one of here on the marketing team, one of our proudest accomplishments. We love our website. We work incredibly hard on it. We have things like uh, the ability to cross over. We can do comparisons. We have product specs. We have list pricing. We have videos. We have trainings. We have everything on there and a live chat function. So you can hit that and immediately get a message to one of our customer service or technicians here, and they'd be happy to help you. Make sure you visit www.hawsco.com. I can't brag enough about it. It's my favorite. And sign up for our e-newsletter. I promise we're not annoying. It's not like every day, like I swear on my phone, every morning I'm just like deleting 50 emails. This is every once in a while. New product updates, webinars on the way, and you want to earn some CEU credits or learn something new, things like that. We'll share that, and it's not terribly frequent. But please sign up. Also, follow us on LinkedIn. Follow me on LinkedIn. Go look up Justin Dunn right now. We share information, product updates, good, useful safety topics, all that type of stuff. It's super useful, and I'd love to be your friend. So, moving on from this, hopefully you got all the information it is that you needed. Question and answer time. So, Samantha, if you would, let's get to question number 1.
All right, let's do it. This is submitted from Nicholas. Thank you so much for sending us this question. And they ask, is this standard the same across all industries, such as healthcare, industrial, etc.?
That's a good question, Nicholas. Yeah, it is. So Z358.1 is as close to a global universal standard as possible, and it applies to all industries, right? There are specific requirements or considerations for certain types of work. For instance, there are some chemicals out there where immediate exposure to water means explosion. It means don't get in water. Or air is a bad idea, and fully submerging yourself, not airized, like not we can't have air introduced in the shower head, but you need to be completely submerged. So they have dive tanks where it's like foam topped and you have to dive underwater. There are certain considerations and stuff like that that are weird for certain industries, but generally speaking, Z358.1 applies to everyone and everywhere. There's a EN 15154 standard for Europe that the other half of the world uses, and it's very similar to Z358.1 with some interesting inclusions as well. What is next?
All right, are eye washes and emergency showers supposed to have a drain for the water to flow down, or are they supposed to spit the water out? I have ones that do that both on site, and I need to know if I have a problem. That one was submitted by AJ. Thank you again.
Drains are tricky. There's nothing in the Z358.1 calling for that, but that is plumbing code for that drainage. I will tell you that on average, it's a low percentage of emergency equipment that has a drain immediately adjacent to it, especially if it's a retrofit, right? If the facility changed hands at some point and they're doing something different there and they installed a bunch of emergency equipment, it's unlikely that there's going to be a drain nearby. And it's going to be unlikely that a drain is going to be capable of draining 23 to 40 GPM per minute. So very frequently it's kind of just like, yeah, you're going to ruin some drywall. And it is what it is. But we highly suggest a drain, but you have to look at your local plumbing code. We highly suggest having a drain there. And sometimes they're hard lined, and sometimes, yeah, it's just spitting the water out. It's not connected to anything. And that's honestly much more common.
Next question, what's the best option for a remote location with no plumbing? Submitted by Cynthia.
Portables, absolutely portable. So R7501 7500, 7603. We have so many options. Go to www.hawsco.com. Just look up portable, or there's a whole category up at the top. This is self-contained stuff. It's going to include a tad more on the maintenance side. But for instance, like our 7501 or 7603, we have pour-in additives, which is a 4-month preservative for that water. Or for the 7501, 7500, the gravity-fed units, we have a 3-year device now. So once a year, you have to swap the water out for new water, but it lasts for 3 years, lowering the maintenance for it. And you want that self-contained stuff for those types of areas. That's really best case, and because this is super frequent, where you have like a remote facility, it doesn't have like plumbed water or a storage shed or whatever it happens to be. Portables are definitely the way to go.
This next question was submitted anonymously. Are alarm switches and signals required for emergency eye wash stations and emergency showers?
These are supplementive. They're even mentioned in the standard, in the appendix. But these are incredibly important. These are highly suggested. I couldn't suggest anything more highly than alarms, signals, and curtains. Those are the 3 main things that I highly suggest adding to your emergency equipment. One, sometimes you're working alone. There's nobody around. Sometimes you're just not going to have somebody realize that you're having a real bad day. And that alarm will let everybody, within a 2-mile radius know that you're having an emergency. So alarms, incredibly important, not required, entirely supplementive equipment, but highly recommended. In many facilities, it's spec'd in. We have to have these type of equipment, but yeah, not required in black and white.
Our Environmental Health and Safety Department abhors floor drains collecting any contaminated water. Please address alternatives to the hazardous cleanup. Once again, this was submitted anonymously, and we thank you guys for sending these in.
They abhor floor drains. So alternatives to hazardous cleanup, there are some devices out there that I suggest, like in a pinch. Like if you're dealing with something that is like can't hit the local waterways, like it can't hit city water drains, things like that, there are devices out there that can help. For instance, spill containment. I can't remember the manufacturer right now, but there are spill containment platforms out there that have expanding bladders now. And if you think about it, your first couple minutes in the emergency equipment are going to be where the highest amount or quantity of the chemical, et cetera, is going to run off of you and be collected by this bladder system. Right? The rest of the water can run onto the floor, but the majority of the contaminant can be collected utilizing something like that. Otherwise, there are facilities that have drains connected to their emergency equipment where it is they have forever chemicals, high-level corrosives, things that cannot hit the drains, and they have a special drain containment system that will capture any potential hazards from that safety shower. Drains are highly recommended. You really should have them in place, and have your Haws cleanup kits available as well, or some way to contain it after the incident.
From Mallory, she asks, do you have any advice for an inspector to give a company to help them give positive encouragement to make the changes they need when previous attempts have failed?
I saw this one, Mallory. So yeah, absolutely. So what we use is evidence, photographic evidence. Very commonly, people can get a black and white written report that says, "Oh, you're non-compliant, and here's the reasons." Right? that's not as powerful as seeing the actual performance and what's happening in the facility. If you can provide evidence to those people that probably aren't going to go out there and test the equipment themselves, um, and probably aren't going to be as invested without actually seeing the performance and how bad it is, can really help. And then really driving home the purpose of Z358.1 and get their heart in it. This is potentially life changing, even at the smallest degree. Even if I just got sand, uh, uh, small debris and stuff like that in my eyes, that 10 seconds applies to that as well. That movement of your eyeballs, etc., um, can lead to loss of vision, can lead to permanent loss of vision, depending on what it is you got in your eyes, forever changing me for the rest of my life because I needed a paycheck, right? I'm coming to work. I love Haws, right? But if there was a piece of emergency equipment back here and it didn't work when I desperately needed it, there's going to be litigation. That's the other conversation. The bad conversation is saying, hey, if something does happen and you were not paying attention to this, like everybody thinks you're going to install this and never use it. That's our hope, right? But the day it does, the day it has to get used and it fails, there's a lot that comes up after that's ugly and uncomfortable and expensive. And this is all insurance against that. So, what's next?
From David, is a shower required near battery charging stations or simply a face wash?
Um, yeah. So this is such a common question um, uh, for emergency equipment, and the answer is very commonly a combination unit. Um, and the reason for that is that that battery acid is no joke. I mean, it's easy for us to pretend we use batteries on a daily basis. Um, and you have to look at, I think it's, I'm struggling to remember. I think it's 1910-178 is the OSHA requirement, 29 CFR 1910. I think it's 178, section D or something like that. But anyways, that's specific around battery charging stations, and it talks about the facilities necessary for washing your eyes, face, and skin, full body decontamination. We as a company highly suggest a combination unit near the battery charging. Why just put a face wash in? Why just put an eye wash in, right? But plan for the worst is our best practice. But yes, we would highly recommend it. And then according to the OSHA standard, you need full body decontamination for battery charging.
What is the testing or inspection requirements for portable units? For example, Haws 7500 and the keg style units submitted by Bruno. Thank you very much.
Gotcha. Yeah, easy peasy. So on that one, it's just a visual inspection. On the portables, take the cap off, ensure the water line is at the manufacturer's recommended level. If it's lower than that, you're not getting the full 15 minutes. It's as simple as that. On the pressurized keg style units, as you said, check the pressure gauge on the front. That's it. It's required. We have our PSI requirement on the front on a label, and it'll say 75 PSI. Just ensure that the gauge is correct. Wiggle it, make sure there's water in there since it's not see-through and you can't just open it. And you're good to go. That's all you got to do.
From Sheila, what is the most effective way to handle annual performance testing?
Train a specialist. Train somebody who really knows what they're doing. Don't just have this in general in your employees' hands because they're not going to do it. Have a specialist or a small team that knows exactly what to do, how to use the checklist, how to use the equipment, what to look for, what to test for. Make them rewatch this webinar. There's so many. I'm working on a video right now for the testing process that I hope to share. But dedicate a team to this, and it's going to make a mess. Make the mess. Just do it, and then really evaluate your facility's capabilities of providing that full 15 minutes. But get the right equipment, train a team, and make sure it's going to be a messy day. It is what it is.
When are emergency showers required in a space or project? What agency or codes require their installation? And that was submitted by Ryan.
So cool name, dude. Um, uh, Three things you want to check, right? First is the easy one, 29 CFR 1910.151C. That is letting us know from OSHA that something is required. We know exposure to injurious materials. I need an eye wash, I need a face wash, etc. Look at the safety data sheet. The safety data sheet tells us everything. It says rinse your eyes for 15 minutes, rinse your skin for 15 minutes. I know I need a combination unit. If it says just rinse your eyes out for 15 minutes, all I need is an eye wash. Again, preferably an eye face wash. I plan for the worst. But that will tell us what it is that we need. It's under the first aid section in the safety data sheet. That's what you want to check. And then lastly, Z358.1, to ensure that that equipment is functioning in a way that will help you, that if OSHA does ever have to investigate or see it, they're going to compare it and you will be in compliance. So, but that lets us know. Check the safety data sheet. As long as that, for whatever chemical or substance you're utilizing, has a first aid section, it tells you what to use, and it outlines what's necessary, you have to have emergency equipment for potential exposure for that area. Now, if that substance is never accessible, right? Say if it's in a hallway and it's running through a pipe, right? That's not being handled. That's not being interacted with in any way, shape, or form. You don't need an eye wash, or face wash combination unit in that hallway or whatever. Focus on the areas where the potential for exposure exists, okay? And don't base it all on PPE, right? Because PPE fails. People fail. I can't tell you how many times in my career working with safety or on sites where I'm just even getting somebody to wear safety glasses is well, crazy. So don't base it on that, but base it on that potential exposure, okay?
From Chris in regards to piping sizes, I believe a combination unit requires 1 1/4 inch piping to supply enough flow to eye wash and safety shower if they run simultaneously. I've noticed a lot of 1-inch piping supply in the combination units in my area.
Yeah, it's more of I guess, an observation, and you're totally correct. All manufacturers require 1-inch and 1/4 piping to supply the combination units. Very frequently, it's 1-inch, and that sucks. It's a bummer. It is what it is. You'll find starvation, especially for, and I'm not going to pick on you because that's not my style, but there are manufacturers, of course, that utilize much more water than Haws uses. We utilize the bare minimum. We just use intelligent engineering to ensure that it's being as effective as possible. We don't want to drown them. We don't want to injure them. We want that water to be distributed across the user in a way that is as meaningful as possible. But there are units out there that use, while ours is using 23 GPM, theirs is using 40 GPM or more. There's others that are more. And that at 1-inch, that's starvation. It's not going to work, right? But yeah, that's super common and super dangerous.
Next question from Tony. If you have existing emergency shower/eye wash stations that do not have a tepid water system, do they need to be updated?
Tony, yeah, good question. So if you do have that existing equipment, it's not meeting 60 degrees to 100 degrees Fahrenheit, they do need to be updated. There's no such thing as like a grandfather clause in the standard. So if they were installed in 2013 and we're on the 2014 standard, it's required regardless. There's no grandfather clause, so we have to get those up to speed. There's lots of ways, again, you can do that. Mixing valve, instantaneous electric, instantaneous steam. things of that nature can really help utilize the resources that are already in your facility, and so forth and so on. So they do have to be brought up to speed. That is necessary. All right. And then so we're at the end. We're gonna call it. That was a lot of your time. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you got a lot out of that. I will be putting a document together that includes all those questions and answers and send them out to people, so you have those with you. You can utilize those. You can look back at it and ensure that you have even more materials for compliance. Okay. There's our contact information again. Thank you very much for being here. Thank you very much for attending. I know we greatly appreciate it. Go forth, be champions for compliance, and let us know when you need help. If you, whatever it is that you need, we're here. We've been doing this a long time, and we like you. So please let us know if you need help. Okay, with whatever it is, and then have a wonderful week. We appreciate you. Bye.